Hello and welcome to UPSC Mains PYQ series by Shikra Academy. In these live sessions, we are discussing all the GS mains questions asked by UPSC over the past years. In today's session, we will be discussing the 2023 GS paper 3, question number 16 to question number 20. Okay, so let's begin. Now, for the first question of the day, what is the main task of India's third moon mission, which could not be achieved in its earlier mission? List the countries that have achieved this task, introduce the subsystems in the spacecraft launched, and explain the role of Virtual Launch Control Center at the Vikram Sarabhai Space Center, which contributed to the successful launch from Sriharikota. A 15-mark question that we have to answer in 250 words. Now, this question is asking us four things. Okay, there are four sub questions in this question. Okay, we have to write the main task that the third moon mission achieved, that is the Chandrayaan 3 mission achieved. Okay, and we have to list all the countries that have achieved this task or the objective. Then we have to introduce the subsystems that was in the spacecraft that launched the Chandrayaan 3 mission, and we have to explain the role of Virtual Launch Control Center. Mapping it with the syllabus, we can see that it has been asked from the subject of science and technology, and the topic is awareness in the field of space, and it is a question on Chandrayaan 3. Okay. So the approach that we'll take in answering such a question is that in introduction, because the question is talking about Chandrayaan 3. Okay. So in introduction, we describe Chandrayaan 3 mission. In the body, we address the demand of the question by writing the main task of Chandrayaan 3, the countries that have achieved a soft lunar landing, the subsystems in Chandrayaan 3 spacecraft, and the role of Virtual Launch Control Center. And in conclusion, we will be summarizing the answer. We will summarize the answer. Now, starting with the introduction, India's third lunar mission, that was Chandrayaan 3, launched in 2023, aimed to rectify the shortcomings of Chandrayaan 2, which was launched in 2019. While Chandrayaan 2 orbiter was successful, its Vikram lander crash landed. Okay, so in Chandrayaan 2, there were two objectives, or there were three mission loads. One was an orbiter, then was a Vikram lander, and inside the Vikram lander was the Pragyan rover. Okay, the orbiter was successfully deployed in the moon orbit, but the Vikram lander, it crash landed on the moon surface. Okay, so the uh, Chandrayaan 3's core task was therefore to achieve a soft landing on the lunar surface. Okay, so mission like the objective which was not completed in Chandrayaan 2, we tried completing it in Chandrayaan 3. Okay, so the main task of Chandrayaan 3 was to successfully execute a soft landing on Moon's south polar region. Okay, the soft landing was the main objective. Okay, and this was not achieved during the Chandrayaan 2 mission because the Vikram lander, it crash landed on Moon's surface. Then it was a demonstration of end-to-end capability in safe landing, rovering, and in situ scientific experiments. Okay, and countries that have achieved a soft lunar landing till now, India became only the fourth country to achieve this feat. So the first country was United States, NASA. It was during the Apollo missions in 1960s that um, NASA achieved a soft lunar landing. Then was Soviet Union, the erstwhile Soviet Union, now Russia. The Luna missions achieved the successful moon landing. Then the CNSA of China, the Chang'e missions, Chang'e 3, Chang'e 4 missions, they successfully achieved, and Chang'e 5 also, they successfully achieved the soft lunar landings. And ISRO with Chandrayaan 3, ISRO became the fourth nation, India became the fourth nation and the first to land near the lunar south pole. Okay, Chandrayaan 3 became the Vikram lander, became the first payload from the Earth to soft land on the moon's south pole, okay, near the moon's south pole. Now, the subsystems that were used in the Chandrayaan 3 spacecraft. Okay. So, it was lander named Vikram. It was equipped with sensors, cameras, throttleable engines, as well as hazard detection systems for controlled landing. Then inside the Vikram lander was a rover named Pragyan. It was a six-wheeled, solar-powered vehicle for surface exploration and scientific experiments. Then was the propulsion module, which provided required trajectory corrections and carried payload to study exoplanet atmospheres. Okay. Then there was the Virtual Launch Control Center at Vikram Sarabhai Space Center, Tiruvananthapuram. Okay. So the role of VLCC, it was established at the Vikram Sarabhai Space Center, Tiruvananthapuram, and it enabled remote integration, monitoring, and real-time data analysis. Okay. This VLCC, it enables, or it was responsible for remote integration for monitoring of the project and real-time data analysis that was coming from the both lander as well as the rover. It allowed engineers across the multiple ISRO centers to collaborate virtually, and it reduced dependence on a single physical location, which increasing the redundancy, reliability, and efficiency. Okay. And the VLCC played a crucial role in ensuring the mission success from the launch site at Sriharikota, that was Satish Dhawan Space Center. Now, in conclusion, we can summarize the answer by writing Chandrayaan 3 marked a historic achievement for India and ISRO, placing it among global space leader or global space elites. Okay. The mission demonstrated India's technological capabilities and resilience after Chandrayaan's 2 setback. Okay. After the Chandrayaan 2 setback, it was like how well the ISRO and the Indian space mission, it bounced back. It was a testament to that. Okay. And it contributed to the overall scientific exploration on the moon's south pole, a region of immense interest for future space research. The south pole of the moon is of immense interest for the explorers because of the possibility of water. Okay. Now moving on to the next question, that is question number 17. Comment on the National Wetland Conservation Program initiated by the Government of India and name a few India's wetlands of international importance included in the Ramsar sites. A 15-mark question that we have to answer in 250 words. Now mapping it with the syllabus, we can see that it has been asked from the subject of environment, and the topic is conservation, environmental pollution and degradation, and the main topic is the Ramsar sites or wetlands. Okay. Now, in introduction, for the approach that we'll take in such a question is that in introduction we describe the wetlands and the National Wetland Conservation Program. Okay, like we describe what are wetlands and what does this National Wetland Conservation Program is about. Then in body we write in detail about this National Wetland Conservation Program and also list some of important Ramsar sites of international importance. Then in conclusion, we will be summarizing the answer and write a way forward. Now, starting with the introduction, wetlands are vital ecosystems that provide ecological services such as flood control, groundwater recharge, carbon sequestration, and biodiversity conservation. So, these are the services, ecological services, which the wetlands provide. So, that's the significance of the wetlands. Okay, recognizing their importance, recognizing the significance of wetlands, the Government of India launched the National Wetland Conservation Program in 1985 to conserve the and sustainably manage these fragile habitats, that is wetlands. Now, the objectives of the National Wetland Conservation Program: to identify and conserve ecologically significant wetlands. Okay. Second, to prevent further degradation through the management plans. Then, promote community participation in conservation efforts. Undertake research, awareness, and capacity building initiatives. Then, how this National Wetland Conservation Program was implemented. The program was implemented in collaboration with the state governments. And under the program, it provided the financial assistance for conservation, catchment management, and ecotourism promotion. So the central government, the Ministry of Environment, it gave financial assistance, financial grants to the state governments for conservation, catchment management, and promoting ecotourism. In 2017, it was integrated. This National Wetland Conservation Program was integrated with National Plan for Conservation of Aquatic Ecosystems for a more holistic approach. Okay. So now, as of now, This NWCP, that is the National Wetland Conservation Program, has been merged with the National Plan for Conservation of Aquatic Ecosystems, because wetlands also are a type of aquatic ecosystem only. Okay, this provides a more holistic approach. Now, we have to list some of India's Ramsar sites of international importance, starting with, so India is a signatory to the Ramsar Convention 1971. So Ramsar Convention was signed in the year 1971 in the Ramsar city in Iran. Okay, and as of now, has the largest network of Ramsar sites in Asia. Okay, so India has the maximum number of Ramsar sites in Asia. Okay. A few notable examples are Chilika Lake, Odisha, which is the largest brackish water lagoon in Asia, and it is a habitat for the Irrawaddy dolphins. Then we have the Kevladev National Park in Rajasthan. That is also a UNESCO World Heritage Site, a UNESCO Natural World Heritage Site, and is famous nesting site for the migratory birds. Okay, along the Central Asian Flyway. Then there is Loktak Lake that is present in Manipur and is low. It is known for the floating fungus, the floating vegetation that is fungus, and is a habitat for the Sangai deer, okay, which is the state animal of the state of Manipur. Then we have the Sundarbans wetland in the state of West Bengal, which is the largest mangrove forest in the world, and the Wular Lake in Jammu and Kashmir. It is one of Asia's largest freshwater lakes. Now, in conclusion, we can write that the NWCP marked a pioneering effort in wetland conservation in India. By integrating with NPCA and expanding Ramsar site coverage, India demonstrates global commitment to biodiversity protection, strengthening community-based management, climate resilience. Scientific monitoring is key to safeguarding wetlands for the future generations. So, here we have summarized the answer. Okay, and this is the way forward. Now, moving on to the next question, that is question number 18. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change (IPCC) has predicted a global sea level rise of about 1 meter by AD 2100. Okay, so by the year 2100, IPCC has predicted that the global sea level will rise by 1 meter. So now this is an introductory statement. Okay, nothing has been asked till now. Okay, so we will be dealing with the introductory statement. So introductory statement that are asked in the question must be dealt with the introduction of the answer. Okay. So, what would be its impact in India? The impact of 1 meter's sea level rise and the other countries in the Indian Ocean region. A 15-mark question that we have to answer in 250 words. Now, mapping it with the syllabus, we can see that it has been asked from the subject of environment, and the topic is conservation, environment, pollution, and degradation. And it is mainly a question on sea level rise. Now, the approach that we'll be taking in answering such a question is that in introduction, we deal with the introductory line that was given in the question and then connect the introductory line with the body of the answer. In body, we write the impacts of this sea level rise on India and impacts on other Indian Ocean countries. And then in conclusion, we write a summary and a way forward so as to mitigate the impacts on the coastal countries and the in the Indian Ocean countries. Now, starting with the introduction, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change projects a global sea level rise of about 1 meter by 2100. And it is mainly due to the melting glaciers, polar ice sheets, and thermal expansion of oceans. Okay? For India and the other Indian Ocean countries, this presents a severe ecological, social, and economic challenges. Okay? Now, the impacts on India. The major impact is on coastal flooding. So we have major cities like Mumbai, Chennai, Kolkata, Kochi, with and the low-lying areas of Odisha and West Bengal. They face high risk of submergence, and millions of people who live in these coastal bands could be displaced. Okay, this could lead to massive displacement of population. Then impact on agriculture and livelihood. Saline water intrusions into the Sundarbans, the Godavari and Krishna deltas, which are a very fertile region. Okay, Godavari and Krishna deltas would reduce the soil fertility and crop productivity, and the fisheries and the aquaculture would also be severely affected. Then impact on infrastructure and economy. Ports, refineries, and coastal industries are vulnerable due to the rise in the sea level, and tourism in the states like Goa, Kerala, and Andaman Nicobar Islands could also face setbacks. Okay? Many of the islands in the Andaman Nicobar could also be entirely submerged. Okay, uh, uh, so we can have the loss of ecosystems, loss of mangroves, wetlands, and coral reefs, which serve as the natural buffers against these cyclones as well as erosion. Okay? Then impact on other Indian Ocean countries. Okay? So the other Indian Ocean countries which are our neighbors, our maritime neighbors, are Maldives, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka mainly. So Maldives, the entire nation is at risk of submergence because the islands of Maldives, they are low-lying islands. Okay, so a rise in 1 meter of the sea level. Okay, this could be devastating for the entire country. Entire country is at risk of getting submerged. Okay, it is one of the most climate vulnerable countries. Okay, Bangladesh coastal flooding and river delta submersion threatens millions with climate-induced migration. So Bangladesh is also a lot of area in Bangladesh is also low-lying. Half of the Bangladesh we can say is low-lying. Okay, so if the sea level rises, these low-lying areas, and Bangladesh, please note that, is also a very densely populated country. Okay, it is among the most densely populated countries in the world. Okay, so that could also lead to massive climate-induced migration, and that will also pose a internal security threat for India also, because a lot of these migrants will then try to enter India. Then Sri Lanka, coastal erosion is a threat to fisheries-based livelihoods. Then the East African coast, especially the countries of Kenya and Tanzania, the coastal tourism and mangroves are at risk there. Okay? So in conclusion, a 1 meter sea level rise would have a devastating consequences for India and the Indian Ocean nations, including the population displacement, food insecurity, and economic losses. Now, way forward, strengthening climate resilience, promoting mangrove restoration, building coastal defenses, and global cooperation under the Paris Agreement are vital to mitigate these impacts. So, moving on to the next question, that is question number 19. What are the internal security challenges being faced by India? Okay, a direct question. Give out the role of central intelligence and investigative agencies tasked to counter such threats. Okay, a straightforward question. Okay, a static question worth 15 marks. We have to write for 250 words. Now, mapping it with the syllabus, we can see that it has been asked from the subject of internal security, as it is talking about security challenges and the various security forces and agencies and their mandate. So, in introduction, the approach that we'll be taking is that in introduction, we introduce the security challenges. We describe what security challenges are there. In body, we address the demand of question by writing or elaborating the major internal security challenges and the role of various central intelligence and investigative agencies. Then in the conclusion, we will be summarizing the answer. So starting with the introduction, India's internal security is complex due to its diverse society, porous borders, and geopolitical environment. Internal threats range from terrorism to cyber attacks, requiring coordinated efforts of central intelligence and investigative agencies. So this is the introduction in which we have highlighted the threats that are there. Okay, and like what could be the um, what are the causes of these internal security threats, and what are the role of these major in central intelligence and investigative agencies. Okay. So now we have to list and elaborate on the major internal security challenges, starting with terrorism and cross-border infiltration. So militancy in Jammu and Kashmir and Pakistan-sponsored terrorism is the major internal security challenge that we have. Although on decline, the left-wing extremism or the Naxalism continues to affect it in areas of central and eastern states, particularly the state of Chhattisgarh. Okay. Then we have insurgency in the northeast, the ethnic unrest, the feeling of separatism, as well as the illegal migration that is going on from Bangladesh or from Myanmar to our northeast states. Okay. Then there are communal and ethnic violence, sporadic riots, and identity-based conflicts. Okay, we can give the example of Manipur, the conflict between the Metis and the Kukis. Then there are cybersecurity threats, rising cybercrime, fake news, and digital radicalization of the population. Then organized crime and drug trafficking, nexus of these organized crime with terrorism and smuggling across the borders. So we can see that with the help of drones, okay, this illicit drug trade is going on. Okay, so drugs are being smuggled into the border states, particularly in Punjab from the Pakistani side. Then the economic security risk, counterfeit currency, as well as the Hawala networks that are there in the country. Now, the role of central intelligence and the investigative agencies. Okay. So we have the internal investigative agency, that is Intelligence Bureau. It collects the internal intelligence, monitor terror modules, and supports the state police. Please note that this is a internal intelligence wing. Okay. Then there is research and analysis wing, RAW, which provides external intelligence. Okay. So RAW provides the external intelligence. The IB, that is Intelligence Bureau, provides the internal intelligence. Okay. So RAW has to counter the cross-border threats. Then there is NIA, which was established after the Mumbai 2008 terror attacks. Okay. So it investigates terrorism, the UAPA cases, and the cross-border crimes. Then is the Central Bureau of Investigation, CBI, which handles corruption, organized crime, and high-profile criminal cases. Then we have National Crime Records Bureau, which maintains the crime data and support the policy decisions. For tackling the movement of money, the illicit movement of money, we have Enforcement Directorate, which investigates money laundering and terror financing. Then we have Multi-Agency Center, which coordinates intelligence sharing among agencies. And then comes the after these investigative agencies, we have the paramilitary forces, that is the Central Armed Police Forces, including CRPF, BSF, CISF, SSB, and ITBP, which provides the aid in counterinsurgency as well as border security. Okay, so these CAPFs, they are involved in counterinsurgency operations as well as in border security. Now, in conclusion, we have to summarize the answer by writing that India's internal security challenges are multidimensional and evolving. The central intelligence and investigative agencies act as the first line of defense, ensuring coordination, intelligence gathering, and swift investigation. Strengthening the interagency cooperation, technology use, and capacity building remains vital for safeguarding the national security. So, this is a forward looking line by which we can summarize or conclude the answer. Moving on to the last question. Give out the major sources of terror funding in India and efforts being made to curtail these sources. Okay. In light of this, also discuss the aim and objective of No Money for Terror conference recently held at New Delhi in November 2022. So this question was asked in 2023. So in November 2022, we had a No Money for Terror conference that was held in Delhi. So this question is of current affairs. Okay, this question has been asked from current affairs, a 15-mark question that we have to answer in 250 words. Mapping it with the syllabus, we can see that it has been asked from the subject of internal security, and the topic is linkages of organized crime with terrorism. Okay, the terror funding. It's mainly a question on terror funding. Now, in introduction, the approach that we'll be taking in such a question is that in introduction, we describe what is terror financing because the question is on terror financing. Then in body, we write the major sources of terror funding in India and the efforts to curtail the terror financing, No Money for Terror Conference 2022. Then in conclusion, we summarize the answer and write a way forward. So starting with the introduction, the terror financing is a critical internal security challenge for India. Okay? So terror financing is a critical internal security challenge as it sustains extremist organizations, fuels violence, and destabilizes society. Cutting off financial flows is as important as neutralizing terror networks on the ground. Okay. Along with the neutralization of the terrorists on the ground, we have to also make sure that their funding, uh, their flow of funding is also stopped. Okay, so that uh, their backbone, the backbone, the system or the terror system, the backbone of the terror system is the terror financing that gets broken. Now, the major sources of terror funding in India are the Hawala and illegal money transfers. The informal network channel funds from the abroad into terror outfits. Then there are fake Indian currency notes, which are smuggled across borders, particularly from Pakistan, to finance extremist activities. Then is drug trafficking and narcotics trades. There is a link between the cross-border drug cartels and the terror groups that provide a steady income. Then is organized crime and smuggling. Arms, gold, and cattle smuggling along the porous borders generate funds. And the misuse of the charitable organizations and the NGOs. Okay, so the misuse of donations and foreign funding under the guise of relief activities is also a major source of terror financing in the country. Then there is extortion and local funding, particularly the Naxalism, okay, the issue of left wing extremism. They rely on extortion from the local contractors, the mining companies, and the businesses. Now, the efforts to curtail these terror financing, what efforts have we put on? Okay, so first is the legal framework. We have defined the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act and the Prevention of Money Laundering Act. Okay, so uh, we have made these two acts in order to curtail the terror financing or in order to get a hold on the terror financing. Okay. Then the agencies involved, so National Investigation Agency, Enforcement Directorate, and the Financial Intelligence Unit, they work in coordination in order to stop the terror funding. Then there is international cooperation, India's participation in the FATF, that is Financial Action Task Force, to monitor the flow of black money or to stop the flow of money into the terror activities. Okay. Then there are technological monitoring, surveillance of digital payments, cryptocurrency, and banking channels. Okay. No Money for Terror Conference 2022. Okay. Its aim was to foster, it was held in New Delhi in November 2022. Okay. To foster international cooperation against terror funding. Its objectives was to enhance global action and to choke funding sources, promote information sharing and best practices, address challenges like misuse of new technologies, especially the cryptocurrency as well as the dark web. Then reaffirm the idea that terrorism knows no borders. Okay, so terrorism has no borders. There is no good terrorism. There is no bad terrorism. Okay, and it requires a collective response from all the countries of the world in order to deal with the menace of terrorism. Then, in conclusion, we can summarize the answer and write a way forward that terror funding remains a transnational threat, and India's efforts, coupled with the global cooperation through forums like the NMFT, are crucial. The effective financial surveillance, strong legal measures, and international solidarity are key to ensuring that terrorists are deprived of their lifeline, that is, money. Okay, so the answers of the model answers of these questions will be available to you on Shikara